Welcome everybody to another edition of the East Coast Wars here in Cornellverse 1997 as we continue TEW 2020. It's a little, we're day off and we've missed a day of the Cornellverse weekends, but I'll do the TCW 2016 TEW 2020 sometime this week, probably on Wednesday, which is sort of an open day I have in the lineup of shows. But let's get rolling as we're now the booker, the Samoan Warrior in Rapid Pro Wrestling, which again, if you remember, is more of a, not quite cartoonish, but more of a high-flying, lucha. Well, here, let's just look at the product. Product is cutting edge lucha. So basically, lucha data plus matches exist. EC on the workers, 80% matches from set angles for events, 70%, 30% angles for TV shows, basic match setups, ongoing storylines, and all that other fun stuff. But let's get rolling to the actual show, as we got a couple TV shows, then a big show at the end of the month I'm creating. So let's get rolling. So we start off with a terrible pre-show match, Officer Easyway, who is like the other part of Officer Hardway, which it's weird they're in two different companies, but I think that's part of the gimmick. Defeated Blue Sky, Daniel Kano, who's the guy in the silver mask, and Jungle Jack, who is of course the future star in SWF and other places in 1206. When Officer Easyway pinned Jungle Jack with a Jungle Serve, this pre-show match, it gets a 32. Blue Sky gets a 24, Officer Easyway gets a 30, Daniel Kano gets a 24, and Jungle Jack actually gets a 36. Solid stuff. Then we go to our opening, which is, So basically, okay. There's some stuff I might have to check. But anyway, in a terrible match, the Hat Gang, which is Stetson Hat with Stetson Hat's gang of, basically, masked baby faces of Inky the Squid Boy, Silver Shark, and Snapdragon, defeated Tom Gilmore and Fujino, who is a Japanese wrestler, and Panda Mask, who is Panda Mask, in 11:58. When Snapdragon pinned Noetka Fujino with a Dragon's Breath, Silver Shark with shoulders over everybody else, this gets a 36. Snapdragon gets a 23. Silver Shark gets a 45. Inky the Squid Boy gets an 18. Tom Gilmore gets a 21. Panda Mask gets a 34. Fujino gets a 30. Let's see here, and got a 36 overall, and got the crowd buzzing, and got the crowd off to a good start. So I imagine, this is just your high-flying opening match. The babyfaces get to shine. Gilmore gets to look, do some big suplexes to get the heel heat. Fujino does some strikes. Panda Mask is, of course, again, this is just storyline I'm making up. It, of course, turned on the babyfaces, to become an evil panda, and that's all you need to know. So, solid start. Then afterwards, we get the Hat Gang celebrating, which gets a 30. Then we go backstage, where basically Brent Hill and Dylan Seidel do a quick promo. Dylan Seidel, says he's sick of tiring with the goofy SOBs that are in this company, making a mockery of the wrestling business, which is how he's going after the world title. And Brent Hill saying, Steve Flash, people call you the best, wrestler, the most underrated wrestler in the world. Well, you're looking at the most underrated wrestler in the world. I'm the future professional wrestling. I'm at the Techno Master, and you're just a joke. 35, solid stuff as we get going to set up that main event for tonight. Then we're back in the ring as in a terrible match. The Ghosts defeated Perugino Soto, who's sort of a mask guy, and Matt Sparrow, who of course from Coastal Zone in future years, with the Phantom Force. This gets a 34. Phantom Zero gets a 39. Phantom Freak gets a 38. Matt Sparrow gets a 12. Matt Sparrow gets Perugino Soto gets a 23. His Man gimmick gets a initial gimmick of great, so that's good. Okay, so that's interesting. So we'll struggle when used as a star major starting company when it's not comedy influence. Interesting. But yeah, match got the crowd hotter. 34, solid match. And the Ghost celebrating afterwards also gets a 34. So solid stuff. Then we have a wacky backstage, lucha style video where we see Whoopi the Clown, and Pete Hillbilly hanging out. Pete Hillbilly trying to, make pies with Whoopi the Clown hitting him with the pies, but Pete Hillbilly just laughing, and then, throwing the pie over her shoulder where it hits a random member of the RPW staff, and then both guys laughing because they're goofy, funny baby faces. And this gets a 24. And then in our main event, that's an injury that looks no good. Anyway, in a decent match, Brent Hill and Dylan Seidel defeated Alex Braun and Steve Flash in 2020 when Dylan Seidel pinned Alex Braun with a Flying Bulldog. This gets a 42. Steve Flash gets a 59. Jesus. Alex Braun gets a 51. Dylan Saito is a weak man with a 39. Brent Hill gets a 55. Good stuff. This gets a 42 overall. And then, yep, I see that. And then the heel celebrating afterwards gets a 44. So, 33. Not the worst thing, but not the best thing either. But we'll be back in a second with the second half of this TV taping, as we're taping two shows at once because basically to save money. So I'll be back in just a moment. All right, time for the second show of the taping, as we start with another pre-show match, which I guess in this case would be an intermission match, as in a terrible pre-show match, Panda Mask defeated Donnie J, Officer Easyway, and Tom Gilmore in 11:49 when Panda Mask pinned Tom Gilmore with Pandemonium, where Gilmore basically has no popularity and is I think he's like 18 or 19, and Panda Mask actually has some popularity. This gets a 32, Donnie J gets a 22, Officer Easyway gets a 30, Panda Mask gets a 36, Tom Gilmore gets a 25. So good stuff to sort of open the pre-show. Then we have a basically quick thing from the announcers, basically putting over the fact that Steve Flash is currently injured, because again, I don't really see he saw it on the screen, but yeah, he got grade something. It only leaves him out for 22 days, so it's not the end of the world or anything. But basically, instead, Saito will get his title shot at Philly Invasion, which is the big monthly show I'm setting up. So this gets a 35. Then in a terrible match, Double Dragon defeated Pete the Pillbilly and Pete Whoopi the Clown in 10-11 when Canadian Dragon pinned Whoopi the Clown. This is after using foreign object, but basically this was a, mass confusion type of thing. So, baby faces, heels get confused, probably because Pete the Pillbilly is not the smartest, card in the deck, and because the heels are sneaky, and they get the pinfall victory. So this gets a 28, UK Dragon gets a 33, Canadian Dragon gets a 20, Whoopi the Clown gets a 27, and Pete the Pillbilly gets a 21. And then the Double Dragon celebrate their nefarious one. And this gets a 30. Alex Braun gets a 47, so good stuff. You just quick promo putting over his big match with Brent Hill tonight, saying he's going to prove that he's a fighter, and what these with fans in RPW want somebody who fights, who doesn't back down, and who does whatever he can to win. 47 is all promo, as Braun's one of our more over guys. And then we have a brings over Braun in ring. So basically, the gimmick here is that Cousin Ezra, because he's a big, goofy, dumb, hillbilly, is being taken advantage of by Lance Anderson and Brains McGee. So, the idea is, they've been telling him for, months now that, people who wear a mask are scary and monsters, and they want to take his soul. So the idea is, that's how he's, fighting the baby faces. So, they're hyping him up because of a match against Snapdragon tonight, and they're like, okay, Cousin Ezra, or help us out, you gotta defeat this scary mask guy, because he's from an alternate dimension where they hate hillbillies, they hate people like you. We're here to protect you, buddy. So that sort of stuff. And this gets a 41. Then in the actual match, in a poor match, which is unfortunate, Lance Anderson defeats Snapdragon in 937 by pinfall. The spoiler, following interference from Cousin Ezra. So, basically, Henderson, it does this sort of cheating thing. Snapdragon comes back with some hot babyface action, but Ezra comes in, does this, sort of big choke slam to him. Lance Anderson hits his finisher and gets the 1, 2, 3 for the pinfall victory. Henderson gets a 46, Snapdragon gets a 24, and Henderson and Snapdragon have pretty good chemistry, which is a positive. And then we have a 2-on-1, but the rest of the Hat Gang ran out to make the save, and, good stuff. This gets a 29. Just a babyface make the big save, as we continue this hype between this feud. Then we have so the idea is, if Singing back got injured, he got an orbital fracture, he'll be out for a couple of months. So I'm saying he's on tour with his band, even though he's just really out with an injury. Just something to get him over, get some interview time, and figure that out. So good stuff. Night 13, because he's not over at all. What can you do? And then in our main event, in a decent match, Alex Braun drew with Brent Hill in 14:41 following a double countout. This gets a 50, and this is just a really, really, really good match, as both men fight all over, hit suplexes, big moves, big slams, but in the end they just brawl outside, and the ref counts to 10, and that's the end of it. As Alex Braun gets a 45, Brent Hill gets a 54 because both men are really good, and then show ends with them continuing to brawl on the outside, as the youngsters put over. This is an intense feud of 4 men who are looking to be the best in the world here in Rapid Pro Wrestling. This gets a 53, and overall the show itself gets a 40. Good stuff. So we'll actually finish the show, and then let's see here. yeah, unfortunately, you get injured. Let's see. UK Dragon relocates. Traction Kane, new goals. Steve Flash injured. Yeah, so let's actually do a couple things. So medical first. He'll be back in 3 months, and Steve Flash will be back in 3 weeks. So he'll have to work the Big Show injured, which is not the which is not the end of the world. But probably means we might want to put something on top of that. He should still be okay because at the end of the day, he's still Steve Flash, so he still should be pretty good. But yes, our storylines, which is Flying Fighters, which is all the mid-card babyface, mid-card flying guys at 29. Funny Things, which is just Pete Tibley and Whoopi Khan being funny, is at 25. Tag Team Battles is at 26, and Top Men is at 49. So probably need to get these guys a little more over for the storylines, but what can you do? But I'll be back in a second with the next edition of Rapid Pro Wrestling, and then we'll have because what happened is when the AI switched over to taping 2 shows at once. So what I'm going to do, because officially this was the actual first show of the month in March, is this is this stuff. So what I'm probably gonna have to do here is book the last show of the month, and then book the big show, and then that'll be our month, which isn't the end of the world, because we still get 4 shows in, and then we'll move on to the last company, which is XFW. But I'll be back in just a second with the next show. Alright, now time for the last TV show of the month, as we're in front of 250 people in Raleigh, North Carolina for the last Rapid Pro Wrestling TV before our first big event, Philly Invasion. As we start with a terrible pre-show match, as Officer Easyway gets another win, defeating Whoopi the Clown, Taka Fujino, and Canadian Destroyer in 11:45. When Officer Easyway pinned Whoopi the Clown with a Justice Served, not Justin Served, that's funny. This gets a 29, Officer Easyway gets a 30, Whoopi the Clown gets a 28, Fujino gets a 31, Canadian Dragon gets a 22, solid stuff. And we start with a in-ring where basically Dylan Seidel puts over the fact that, he is the most devious man in Rapid Pro Wrestling, and at Philly Invasion, in front of true wrestling fans in Philadelphia, QBs from the North Carolina crowd, it doesn't matter that Steve Flash is injured, at the end of the day, he will defeat him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and there's nothing he can do about it. 41, solid promo. And then we move on with the match as Dylan Seidel defeats Matt Sparrow in 8:46 by pinfall the Flying Bulldog. This gets a 35. Seidel gets a 43. Sparrow gets an 18. Just a quick, quasi-squash one to put Seidel over. And it'll really build up some heat for the main event at the next big show. And then in a big old 4-way battle between all the high-flying mid-carders and about that terrible wrestling, ouch, in non-season crowd heat, Daniel Cano defeated Black Eagle, Blue Sky, and Donnie J in 11:32 when Daniel Cano pinned Donnie J with a Silver Shocker. This gets a 28. Let's see here. Black Eagle gets a 20. Yeah, Black Eagle gets a 28 himself. Blue Sky gets a 22. Daniel Cano gets a 23. And Donnie J gets a 21. But still, solid 28. Not the end of the world. And then post-match, there's a dive train on everybody, which gets a 14, as just everyone hits a dive on everybody to get a pop from the crowd. And then we move forward with basically a squash, as Pete the Hillbilly gets a big win, defeating Tom Gilmore in 5:29 by pinfall the Big Splash. This gets an 11. Ouch. Hillbilly gets a 20. Tom Gilmore gets a 25. But, Hillbilly just gets a big win and then gets to dance for the fans afterwards. So solid stuff. Then we have a backstage promo with Steve Flash saying he's a man of few words, but he's been a proud world champion here in Rapid Pro Wrestling, and it doesn't matter whether he's currently a little banged up, it doesn't matter who he faces. Right now it's Seidel, before it's been Alex Braun and Brent Hill, but he's proved he's the best in-ring wrestler in the world right now, and he's going to do, what he can at Philly Invasion to retain this title. 38, solid stuff. And then in our TV main event, about a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling, Iggy the Squid Boy, Silver Shark, and Alex Braun defeated Brent Hill and Brains over Braun in 15:50 when Silver Shark pinned Lance Henderson. So, this is a back and forth match, wacky stuff, with, Brent Hill being frustrated by the baby, with mass baby faces, Alex Braun actually getting some shots on Cousin Ezra, Lance Henderson being sneaky, but at the end of the day, Silver Shark is able to get the big win over Lance Henderson, while Cousin Ezra is distracted by Inky the Sweet Boy and Alex Braun, and they get the big win over the people they'll be facing for the titles at Philly Invasion. This gets a 42, Braun gets a 46, Silver Shark gets a 40, Inky Boy gets a 20, Lance Henderson gets a 45, Cousin Ezra gets a 27, Brent Hill gets a 52, this gets a 42 overall. And the post-match is the Bayface celebrating down the show, which gets a 39. And the show overall gets a 33. So solid stuff. Like, not our best show ever, but, not the best show ever, but still, builds up, all the big matches. It's going to be basically Alex Braun versus Brent Hill, Steve Flash versus Dylan Seidel, and the tag title match, and other, random stuff to build out the card. Okay, so there we go. Storylines wise, we still need to build up one of these to 35, so we don't get dinged, but what can you do? But I'll be back in just a second with the first Philly invasion, live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'll be back with that in just a moment. Welcome, everybody, to announce time for Philly invasion, as we're live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in front of 553 people, as we start off with in a terrible match, Tom Gilmore defeating Officer Easyway 932 by pinfall after using foreign object. Of course, what happens is Gilmore, because he's a hypocritical, technical wrestler, grabs Officer Easyway's Billy Club, and knocks Easyway out with it, and gets a pinfall victory. This gets a 28, Gilmore gets a 22, Easyway gets a 28, and then after the match, Gilmore continues to beat down on Easyway with his Billy Club to get some heat, and that gets a 33, as they're building up Gilmore to, further up the card. Then we move forward with our wacky wacky four-way tag team match, as in a terrible match, Fujino and Panamask defeated Double Dragon, The Ghost, and Pete the Hillbilly Willie Clown in 932. Order elimination was Double Dragon, then Pete the Hillbilly Willie the Clown finding the Ghosts. So this gets a 34, Canadian Dragon gets a 20, UK Dragon gets a 29, Panamask gets a 29, Fujino gets a 28, Phantom Zero gets a 41, Phantom Freak gets a 39, Willie Clown gets a 29, and Pete the Hillbilly gets a 19. A solid match, but, basically Fujino and Panamask unfortunately don't have any chemistry, which is hilarious considering the AI teamed them up, which is, just a thing of course they would do. Match got the crowd hotter, but, basically good match to give a heel team a win. And then post-match, the heels celebrate, including the turncoat on all masked wrestlers in Rapid Pro Panamask. And this gets a 33. Then in a continuation of basically our mid-card high flyers storyline in a bout had terrible wrestling and non-existent crowd heat, Blue Sky defeats Matt Sparrow, Black Eagle, and Daniel Cano in 1325 when Blue Sky pins Matt Sparrow with the Phoenix Firebird Splash. This gets a 29, Sparrow gets a 21, Blue Sky gets a 26, Black Eagle gets a 30, and Daniel Cano gets a 24. So 29, decent match, and then Blue Sky celebrating afterwards gets a 29 as well. So, not the best match, but a pretty solid match. And then in a poor match, Inky the Squid Boy and the Silver Shark win the double act titles over Brains Over Brawn in 1309 when Silver Shark submitted Lance Henderson with the Jaws of Life after Cousin Ezra wiped out Lance Henderson by accident. So basically, Silver Shark is really, digging into Henderson. Cousin Henderson comes in to save, but instead of hitting Silver Shark, he just bowls over Lance Henderson. Inky the Squid Boy hits a big, drop kick to send Cousin Ezra outside, and then Silver Shark locks Lance Henderson in the middle of the ring, and with nowhere to go, he has to submit, and we have new tag team champions. This gets a 38, Silver Shark gets a 43, Inky the Squid Boy gets a 18, Lance Henderson gets a 43, Cousin Ezra gets a 25. Really good match, really solid stuff, and of course, the basis celebrating afterwards gets a 37. Then we move forward to our semi-main event, as in a bout that good wrestling, decent reaction from the crowd. Alex Braun defeated Brent Hill in 1944 by pinfall with the brain damage. So again, back and forth match, battling, both men, looking, to get the win. Suplexes, throws, harsh heart kicks. By the end, Braun was able to hit his finisher and get the big victory over Brent Hill. And this gets a 54. Brent Hill gets a 60. Alex Braun gets a 45. And then Alex Braun celebrating afterward gets a 54. And then it's main event time. Of course, Steve Flash is coming in with an injury, but he fights back. He fights. But, Seidel slowly takes him apart. And in the end, Seidel, at the end, Flashes just get too injured. Seidel's able to hit a few big moves in a row, and then locks in a submission. Let's say a sort of, because I forget his injury. Let's just say, basically, a modified knee lock with a crossface, and with nowhere to go, Steve Flash had to submit, and we have a new RPW World Champion, as Dylan Seidel gets the win. This gets a 47, Seidel gets a 42, Flash gets a 49. Unfortunately, the injury took a toll from Flash. And then Seidel celebrating with the title gets a 45. We finish the show. This gets a 38. So we'll give some to Lance Henderson, because it was had a great performance, to Steve Flash for gutting it out. And then, of course, Brent Hill for being our best actual performer. So we'll see if we get any mail, and then we'll do the end of the month stuff in just a moment here. So let's see here. Okay, yep. As this continues to load up for us. Ooh, Darky. Okay, nothing too major. Let's see here. Wrestle Festival. Steve Colt defeated Future Runaway Train. Okay, that makes sense. Anyway, sure. Ooh, ouch. We finished last out of 5. That's unfortunate. I mean, sort of, I figure that, like, because RPW really has the problem that they don't have a bunch of great teams. But, okay. Let's go over a couple of things here. So, storylines-wise, whoops, that's not right. Storylines-wise, where are we? Yeah, creative, we got franchise players are still Brent Hill, Steve Flash. Who's hot is Steve Flash, Brent Hill, and Alex Braun, Cousin Ezra. Nobody who's not, so that's good. Storylines-wise, just as we finish the month, Flying Fighters got a 26. Funny thing is at a 34, so almost hot. Tag Team Battles at a 35, and Top Men is at a 47. Again, titles, Double Act is Inky Sweetboy and Silver Shark for the first time, and World Champion is Dylan Seidel for the first time. Let's see here. What we'll do is, just so this AI knows what to do, it will be automatically in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let's see here. Yeah, let's just first look at our size. So if we track progress, we basically stayed even, which, you know, is not as good as we wanted, but not the end of the world either. But actually, okay, before we go over the roster and see how we did as far as, like, helping people get more over, let's go over what the other companies did. So let's start with Dave. Let's pull up their show history. So in March, okay, so they started out with Tryon versus Pex defeating Freddie Datsun, Vin Tanner defeating 4-1 in a tables match, Black Murder retaining the tag titles over Officer Hardaway and Monty Walker, Tim Champion defeating Big Cat Brandon, Chris Caulfield defeating Lucas Cole, and Enoch defeating JJ Coles, and Michael Cook defeating Kurt Laramie. Then they had March into Battle, their big show, as, let's see here, we had Michael Cook defeating William Fletcher at 17, Inuit defeating Rory Stevens in 25, 4-1 defeating Officer Chris Caulfield, Officer Hardway, and Big Cat Brandon in a cage match in a 40. Vin Tanner defeated Monty Walker in a 46. Tyrannus Pex and Black Murder defeated Tim Tantrum and Flapjack and Fandles in a 50. Johnny Morton defeated Wolverine in a 60. J.E. Morgan defeated Vengeance to retain the Extreme title in a 57. And in the main event, Eric Tyler Nemesis defeated Damon Carruthers and Henry Lee in a cage match, which got a 73. Mostly because Nemesis got a 79 and Eric Tyler got a 63. So that's interesting. Got a 60 overall. Highway to the Danger Zone was highlighted by Vin Tanner defeating Officer Hardway and Freddie Datsun defeating Inuit, and Black Murder defeated Tim Tantrum and 4-1 to retain the tag titles. Let's see here. Black Murder defeating Hardway and Walker defeating the tag titles next week, and then 4-1 and Freddie Datsun defeated Brandon and Fanner again, and then Tyrannus Pex defeated Flapjack Fanner in a cage match. And then in our final show, Black Murder defeated 4-1 and Freddie Datsun to retain the tag titles. Flanagan and Walker defeated Tanner and Brandon, and Officer Hardway defeated Tyrannus Pex. So solid month for them. If we move down to Philly Pro, if we will look at what they did, shows in history. Let's see here. They had Whistler defeating Elaine Williams. That's interesting. Did they turn one of them heel? Babyface. Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, Whistler defeating Elaine Williams in a 51. Ramon Piaz and Max Mancrusher defeating Moving Target, Brent Hill and Chester Stein in a 47. Controlled Chaos won the rematch against the Skinner Brothers. We had Whistler defeating Crush Karloff to retain the Tri-State Championship. Man Mountain Cahill defeating Brent Hill, though. Ramon Piaz and the Skinner Brothers defeating Lawson and Controlled Chaos. Let's see here. Whistler defeated Mick Cahill to retain the tag titles. With Controlled Chaos defeating Lawson and Piaz to retain the tag titles. Chris Karloff and Brent Hill getting wins. And then Whistler defeating Karloff again to retain the Tri-State Championship title. And then Controlled Chaos defeating the Skinner Brothers again. Okay, interesting. So they had a decent month. And then XFW. Oops, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. They had Rando and Samson defeated Kendall and Future in a 58. Kid and Filth defeating Guru and Big Spec Back Vandals in 47. We had the Insane Heat defeating Kendall and Gonzalez to retain the world title. Future and Danger Kid defeating Simpsons and Bud Miller. We had Mad Mood Boone and Hardcore Killer defeating the Big Smack Vandals to retain the Blood Brothers titles in a 39. I had Butcher defeating Jimmy Cox. Insane Heat winning a 4-way over Danger Kid, Ultra Rando, and getting his hand to retain the world title. Gonzalez and Sampson defeated Kendall and Future, retaining in a tag match in a 54. And Shadow and Nathan Filth defeating Bud Miller and Big Spec Vandals. Interesting. And then we had Insane Heat defeating Big Dumb Kendall in tables match, retaining the world title. Frankie Future and Danger Kid defeating Simpson and Rando. Shadow and Nathan Filth defeating Ran. And okay, so basically the same feuds they've been doing. Yeah, so nothing too out of the ordinary. And if we look at the actual battles, for the Tri-State, Dave was 1, XFW was right behind, PBW was right ahead, and we were actually pretty far behind, which is unfortunate. And we also lost 80,000 last month, mostly, yeah, for production, though we didn't lose as much as we thought we did. Interesting. All right, and just for teams, we'll add that team just so they're on there for the pay-per-view. And yeah, let's just go over the roster real quick. Okay, so Alex Braun. Let's see here. Braun, looking at the Mid-Atlantic, he went down a point. In the Tri-State, he went up 4 points, though, so that's interesting. Black Eagle. In the Mid-Atlantic, stayed even. In the Tri-State, he went up a point. Blue Sky. Stayed even. Okay. Brent Hill. I did drop him a bit, so let's see here. Mid-Atlantic, he went up 3 points. In the Tri-State, he went up a point. Okay. Canadian Dragon, let's see here. He stayed even, yeah, basically everywhere. UK Dragon, I'm going to guess the same thing. Okay, same. Well, he went up a point in the Tri-State, so that's a positive. Let's see here. Cousin Ezra. Cousin Ezra in the Mid-Atlantic is even, and the Tri-State went down a point. Daniel Cano, let's see here. Went up a point in the Mid-Atlantic and went up a point in the Tri-State. Donnie J went up a point in both Mid-Atlantic and Tri-State. Dylan Seidel. Hopefully he got a big boost. So he's up 4 points in Mid-Atlantic and he went up 10 points in the Tri-State. Okay, interesting. And Keita's Good Boy, let's see here. He went up 1 point in Mid-Atlantic and 5 points in the Tri-State. Jungle Jack, let's see here. He's even still. Lance Henderson, let's see here. He's even in the Mid-Atlantic, and he fell down 3 points in the Tri-State, mostly because he did the job. And he went up, so Sparrow went up 8 points in Mid-Atlantic, and he went up 9 points in the Tri-State, basically by debuting. Fujino dropped a point in the Mid-Atlantic and 2 points in the Tri-State, which is unfortunate. Officer Easyway, let's see how bad did his job hurt him. Okay, I only lost a point in the Tri-State by losing to Gilmore and gained a point in the Mid-Atlantic. Panamask, let's see here. Panamask is up a point in the Mid-Atlantic, but that's it. Peregrine Soto, let's see here. Oops, that's his skills, not his popularity. Peregrine Soto is even. Pete Tillbilly is down 3 points in the Mid-Atlantic and down 3 points in the Tri-State. Phantom Freak is, let's see here, even everywhere. And same thing with, yeah. Silver Shark is up 2 points in the Mid-Atlantic and up 7 points in the Tri-State. Snapdragon, by debuting, is up 2 points in the Mid-Atlantic and 2 points in the Tri-State. C-Flash, let's see how bad this loss hurt. Let's see here. Survey says, okay, lost a point in Mid-Atlantic and he lost 2 points in the Tri-State, so not bad at all. Tom Gilmore, up a point in the Mid-Atlantic and up 6 points in the Tri-State. And then finally, Whippy the Clown. Okay, so even. So not big, huge differences for anybody, but still building some people up on the mid card. But next up, we've got XFW, which again, they're the really wild promotion. As if we look at their product, or is it product? Yeah, extreme hardcore. So 85% matches, 15% angles, 75% matches, 20% angles for TV shows. High wear and tear. We might accept any match types. Lengthy matches lose the audience. And yeah, ongoing storylines. We need a hardcore, wild, brawl, and mayhem in each show. And yeah, fun stuff. But that's it for now. So if you enjoyed this, go and give it a like. Comment below on what you're enjoying and not enjoying, and subscribe to the channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including this. My other Cornellverse weekend show, TCW 2016 and TEW 2020. My long-running WCW 2003 series, which will have Mayhem tomorrow, and then we'll be on the road to Starrcade. WCW 1993 with no Eric Bischoff, and my MLW 2005 series. But that's it for now, so talk to you later, and have a good one.